Oh, hello and welcome back to the Women's Rugby Show Weekly podcast brought to you by Moonrise Sports. I am Sam, by the way, and we are back again for episode 17 of the podcast, where this week we'll be having a little look into the first round of the Women's Six Nations. We're talking to Meg Jones from the Red Roses to kind of see her opinions from the first round of games. We're looking at all things England under 20s as well. We're talking to Leah Green and Steph Else. We'll also be introducing a brand new segment brought to you by our partners and sponsors, Moonrise Sports, called Moonrise Five. We'll be asking one of their athletes that are over on their platform 5 random questions. And this week, that is the USA and Leicester Tigers, Tess Feury. Before we get into this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video. But if you're also watching on YouTube, make sure you check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so you can listen to us on the go. And also make sure you check us out across all social medias to see all the content we bring, especially from post-match reaction. That's a lot of what we do over on Instagram and X. If you don't know that, let's get into this video. Like I mentioned, we're going to take a little bit of a brief look at the first round of Six Nations, but we don't want to kind of have me talking too much. I've got plenty of other voices on the episode this week. So 3 games, obviously, for the first round, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. See, France won 38-17 over Ireland. And just kind of look at that one first. I think it's massively seen Ireland kind of getting that gap closed slightly. I think France were so close to pulling away numerous times in that game. Ireland's defence held strong, and they also got a couple of tries on the board at the end. Really important to see if them kind of heading into a couple of tough fixes, especially England. Twickenham's going to be really hard for them to kind of have this note on the back knowing they can do this. Then it's going to be really important for them heading forward. Perhaps they can get a couple of results against the likes of Italy, Wales, and Scotland. Talking about Wales and Scotland, heading into game 2 of Saturday, the game we were at Cardiff Arms Park. Wales 18, Scotland 20. I think just heartbreak for Wales, especially Claykie George and Sean Jones right at the end, with Claykie missing that kick to level it and then Sean Jones kicking into touch. But all credit to Scotland, a massively famous Scotland win, 7 wins in a row. First time they've done that. First win in Wales since 2004, and they did deserve it. I think they were outstanding in attack that first half, especially. Corinne Grant was excellent, Helen Nelson was excellent, and Rona Lloyd was brilliant as well. And I think all round led by the legend that is Rachel Malcolm. And yeah, I think that's a really good sign for Scotland heading in to France this weekend and then England in a couple of weeks' time as well. And finally, Italy 0, England 48. Obviously, it was such a slow start from England. It was a really strange game, actually. I think looking at how it worked and how England fought back from going down to 14 with Sarah Beckett's red card, which I do think was deserved, by the way. I think it's something that needs eradicated in the game. But for England to fight back from 10-0, well, it was 0-0 during the red card and 10-0 at half-time, playing with 14 players for gone 68-plus minutes. I think it's really credit to how John Mitchell's got them working as a side, and it's his first Six Nations game, his first proper game in charge, and he's got them working like that to recover. I think that's just full credit to them. And enough of me talking about Six Nations. Time to hear from Red Roses centre, utility back, Meg Jones, and kind of how she found the game against Italy and how she's looking forward to the game against Wales, the country of her birth as well.
I think, we got thrown a couple of situations that we were kind of dealt with, which we dealt with really well. So that was really positive from our point of view. Just showed how calm we could lead under pressure when things weren't going our way. Obviously being with 14 players, on the pitch, down to 13 at one point as well. So yeah, I think it was just one of those things. It was kind of like we were happy with the result, happy with how we went about our business. I'm just positive really going into the next game. Like defensively, we showed that we were capable of keeping teams out. Don't think they got into our 22 much, and I think that's a really good positive going into the Wales game as well. Yeah, that's not a secret, is it? I think probably no different to any other game. My dad's probably looking a bit closer because he loves watching Wales in particular, but obviously he loves supporting me and the girls as well. So yeah, again, no different in our preparation, particularly from my end. But there's going to be a lot of passion on the weekend, and there's going to be a lot of passion from our end as well. So that's going to be positive. They've got all threats across the park. Like even Claykie George, like her kicking game is remarkable. So a lot of the focus now is we're going to obviously be on England with what we're going to do. But there are key players that we're going to have to try and try and keep down and keep them tame within and put them in their box. So that's going to be really important to us. So yeah, but most importantly, we want to keep building on from the early game, because like this is a long tournament, and we want to keep building each time. So yeah, it's actually my first time playing Wales. So yeah, it's gonna be if we do play them. So yeah, as in if on playing this weekend. So it's going to be an interesting one. And in terms of the build up and stuff is different. So yeah, I think is one that's going to be I guess one to remember if you take the field. And I think particularly the build up as well. And like I said, my dad's going to be the biggest supporter on both ends, which is really important as well for me. Definitely, and in most, not just this weekend, would have kind of sparked that. But most teams you go into, and you probably hear this a lot, but we play scenarios, and you might play scenarios out in your head, or as a team we'll play scenarios. Maybe someone will go down, injuries happen. So it's really important that we try and foresee those things as a team, and how we can collectively regroup and get the best outcome. And we did that on the weekend. So that's hats off to all the drivers on the pitch who are leading that, and I think probably just shows where we're at as a group. So did good. She was back in the mix. I know she was happy with her fake tan on. She was pretty happy to have that red rose back on, so that was amazing to see. And yeah, she did extremely well. And look, there's different connections out there. You got Skazzy playing at 12 as well, who's been back up from a long-term injury. So yeah, there's loads of people keep saying dusting the cobwebs up, but I think loads of opportunities and positives that have come out of that in terms of us building our connections. So yeah, she did a good job.
A couple of quick ones from me. Obviously, you're kind of touching it already about your first kind of Six Nations involvement. I think since 2021, if I got that right. But how do you feel like the tournament's kind of changed in terms of the strength of opposition since then?
Yeah, the game is way faster. Italy gave us a massive 40 minutes. It just shows the depth, how important that depth is within teams. The speed, the power, the agility, the tacticians now that are on the pitch, and in terms of trying to manipulate the game as much as they can. And you can see that's really evident, particularly in the players that are playing in the PWR as well. There's definitely crossover there. So yeah, it's come on leaps and bounds. I mean, I remember playing Italy in 2021 and thinking, wow, the game's come on massively, because since I'd been back from sevens. But it's just the speed of it, the collisions as well, and that's only growing as well. Like I said, bit of investment, bit of backing behind you, then you seem to get a bit more faith and hope in what you're doing, and also you get the execution out of it as well.
And obviously, there's a lot of players in that Red Roses backline who can kind of play across the backline. Obviously, yourself, Scars plays in more positions, so in Holly as well. Just is that kind of enjoyable knowing that you can all step into a given role and knowing that you all do a good job at it as well?
Yeah, I mean, this team is full of leaders. It's full of those that are good on the ball, off the ball, and we've got amazing rugby players across the park. The strength and depth we have. We'll continue to say it is phenomenal, and it's something we just want to keep building. And connections are really important on that front.
Just one last one for me. Obviously, the Red Roses kind of launched that specific Red Roses account on X and Instagram last week. Just how important is it kind of having that own platform for the team, and also for kind of growing the women's game in the UK?
Yeah, I think something we've been pushing for as a group for a while, and I think it's just nice to have, I guess, it seems like your own voice. Not that we didn't have that, but it sometimes gets diluted amongst all the other amazing bits that are going on from the RFU's point of view. So yeah, we're just really pleased that we can now voice and show what we're about, and it all just being based on the women's section and driving that. So hopefully there's good momentum now going into this tournament, and we can get a huge following behind it, which would be amazing.
And as I mentioned in the introduction, this is one of our brand new segments on the podcast. We're going to be calling it Moonrise Five, named after our brand new partners and sponsors, Moonrise Sports. Make sure you go and check them out on social media at Moonrise Sports, and check out the website too, where you can communicate, get video calls, coaching advice from all your favorite athletes who are on that platform. And this is what we're going to be doing every week. We're going to be speaking to one of them, asking 5 random questions. And this week is Leicester Tigers and USA international Tess Feury. So, Tess, thank you so much for joining us today, kind of the first of our Moonrise Five kind of feature. Do you want to kind of quickly touch on what Moonrise is? Because I know you're one of the athletes over on that website.
Yeah, Moonrise is a really cool and unique platform that allows people from around the world to get advice and connect with professional athletes. So it gives an opportunity if you want to, get some feedback on some skills, just learn about our daily routines. And yeah, it's just a really cool way for the world to connect with professional athletes.
Perfect. So, as I just kind of mentioned to you off camera about how the segment's going to work, it's going to be kind of 5 random questions. So we just get into those questions first. And the first one is, who would you pick in a sevens team of players that you've played with before?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I would say for players that I played with before, for a sevens team, I would have to pick Naya Tapper. She plays currently with the USA sevens team. I played with her in the 2017 Rugby World Cup for 15s, and then also played with her in sevens. She's just a burner on the edge, and she's come so far. So just to see her work rate, that she's continuing to get better, and she's going to be a big finisher in the corner.
And kind of what's been the most second question, what's been the most memorable game of your career to date and why?
For me, the most memorable game in my USA rugby career was this past summer at the Pac-4 Pacific 4 tournament. We played against the Black Ferns, and we were actually winning at halftime. And the energy in the locker room at halftime, there's just so much belief in the team, and that was the most belief I've seen in a USA team. So it really kind of reminded me, why I play, why I work so hard was to kind of reach those moments. So I won't forget that halftime.
Yeah, and then the next question is kind of what is the strangest pre-match routine or kind of tradition that you've encountered?
Strangest. There's not too many. I think most of my teammates are pretty, focused before the game, but I do have one teammate that, how sometimes socks have left and right. They like to put them on opposite. So no matter what the socks say, it has to be the opposite. So I think that's kind of unique and a simple way that you can do it every game and it won't throw you off too much.
Okay, and the next question is, what is a favorite piece of memorabilia or memento that you've kind of collected from your rugby career?
Oh, that's a really, really cool question. I would say my favorite thing is my jersey from the 2017 Rugby World Cup semifinal. Just because we faced the Black Ferns, and that was my first time, standing up against the Haka in such an important and huge game in my career, and that moment gave me chills. So just being able to still have that jersey, I have it hanging up on my wall, is just really special.
I was going to say, do you have it framed or is it just kind of on a hanger?
I do. I have it framed, with like a little plaque about the game and my name and stuff. So it's just like a really cool token that I'll definitely keep.
Do you still have your first USA cap as well?
Yes, yeah. So at USA, we get one cap when we get our first cap. And then what I've done is every time I trade a pin, I put the pin on the hat from the country I played against. So that's kind of my way of keeping track. But yeah, that's also super special as well.
Okay, and the final question is, what player in World Rugby kind of would you like to be least left one-on-one with defensively? Say if they were running at you, who would you'd least like that to be?
Least likely. I'm going to have to go with Portia Woodman. I feel like she's a very popular choice, but, power to her. She's really good at open field, and that stiff arm isn't something I want to get behind.
So perfect, Tess. Thank you so much for chatting to us today. Listeners, make sure you go and check Tess out over on Moonrise, and also best of luck for your Test match this weekend against South Africa.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And part 3 of this week's podcast sees us talking all things England under 20s. They had a massive win at the weekend against British Army, 99-5. Really impressive performance. Obviously, we've been in that camp earlier this year. It was really nice to see them get out there on the pitch. that backline's so exciting, playing with 4 10s essentially on the pitch with Ella Cromack, Amelia McDougall, Millie Hyatt, and Leah Green. And some of the pace on that wing as well, Sophie Hopkins and Renika Bonner, just so impressive. And the pack was really good too. It was really exciting to see. And yeah, today we're going to be speaking to Leah Green from Loughborough Lightning and also Steph Else from Hartpury University, Gloucester Hartpury, just to see what they thought about the game, kind of how their career paths have got to this level, how they got to this date, and kind of what is next for them coming up the season. Obviously, 2 massive books, semi-finals coming up next weekend. They'll both be involved in that. So it's going to be really exciting to see all the 20 players kind of evolve to books over the next couple of weeks before they get back into 20s mode for France and then Wales as well. Wales at Shaftesbury Park. It's going to be really exciting to go and watch that one as well. But let's get into this chat with Steph and Leah. Just so, first of all, Leah, thank you so much for chatting to us today. Just how have you been and kind of how's the recovery been since the game for the 20s against the British Army on Saturday?
Yeah, obviously we're in camp from Wednesday until Sunday, so quite a long one leading up to the game. Still a bit sore, but it's been good. Like, looking back on the game, it's a pretty good game. Like, put out a good performance, got what we wanted from the game, so it's all been good.
And just how have those camps kind of been in the lead up to Saturday? Obviously, there's been so many throughout the year, and you weren't in the original 2024 squad. So, kind of how has that step up been made from yourself?
Yeah, so I missed the first few camps just because I wasn't included in the squad, and then I was lucky enough to be invited into trial in the February camp, and like transitioning into the group was actually really easy. Like, I knew quite a few of the girls from just playing against them, or like just you see them all around. So transitioning into the group was easy. And then just like training wise, it was difficult to begin with, just like getting used to playing with everyone and that kind of thing. But from that, transition was easy, and obviously I ended up starting in the game last weekend, so that was like an added bonus.
And just kind of what were your feelings when you found out you were starting that game? Obviously, I think that's the first time you played for England in any kind of level, is that right? So just how was the feeling for yourself?
Yeah, so that was the first time. Yeah, so as you said, it was the first time I've ever played in an England shirt. So like, obviously nerves were there going into the game, and I played a different position to where I've been playing at club and at blocks. So it was nerve-wracking to begin with, like, especially when you walk out and do the anthems. But actually playing the game, I think I settled in quite well, and I actually ended up really enjoying myself. So yeah.
You spoke about that different position there. I think there was probably 4 of you in that back line who regularly played 10 in yourself, Ella, Amelia, and Millie. Just how nice is it to kind of have that versatility, and how does that affect your game? Or does it kind of make it more enjoyable knowing you can all step into that role if needs be?
Yeah, as you said, we all play 10, but I think we all play very differently in what we do. But just having that knowledge and like all being able to identify that space in various areas of the pitch, I think it just made us quite unpredictable, and like we were quite creative on what we were trying, and it kind of really encourages us to be creative like that. And obviously that comes with like the multiple kicking options and multiple playing options. So it just worked really well.
You spoke about Sarah McKenna then. Just how nice is it to have someone who's so fresh, still playing rugby herself, fresh from playing Red Roses quite recently, coaching you at kind of pathway level?
Yeah, it's really good. Like, she just encourages us to go out there and try things, like just play what we see, that kind of thing. She's not too rigid. Obviously, we've got our structure that we want to play with, but if we see the space, she encourages us to just do what we want, kind of thing, and just be creative and brave in what we do.
And just to kind of touch on the Army, obviously the scoreline didn't go their way, but they're quite a physical side. The players who've played a lot of rugby, senior rugby, against a side like yourselves who are so young in their careers, that kind of the physicality, something that you could feel heading into the game, or sorry, you could feel during the game?
So I was playing fullback, so I think I made about 2 tackles all game, but I think the forwards definitely put in the shift in that sense. The Army managed to get their try in the end, just through brute force, really. So, like, they were wearing us down throughout the game, but I think physically we were able to step up and meet what they put out against us.
And just kind of looking at your rugby career today, how have you kind of ended up playing for England in the 20s and for Loughborough Lightning?
So right from the start, I played like when I was younger, from probably about 7 to 10-ish. But then I gave up playing rugby, and then I competed in gymnastics, and I competed nationally in that. So that kind of took up all my time. And then after COVID, I quit gymnastics and I went to Millfield School for sixth form. And obviously, there's a massive rugby base there. And they kind of just encouraged the girls to get involved because there wasn't really a girls' team when we were there. And then from that, I went to play for Bristol Bears Centre of Excellence and Winscombe Rugby Club, and then moved to Loughborough for uni last year. And then just played Prem Cup, played Bucks, and then got invited to trial for 20s this year, which is a really good opportunity.
Just to touch on a few things you mentioned there, obviously that gymnastics background, just how, if you kind of taken any of that skill from the gymnastics or kind of agility or anything, have you taken that into your rugby game?
Yeah, I think like the type of gymnastics I did was quite explosive. So I did tumbling, so just like that kind of power and explosivity and agility going into a game. I think that's really helped me out. And then just doing all that strength training and stuff from a young age has just been helpful to progress on that.
And also you're talking about Bucks, obviously the semi-finals next week. Just how important is that kind of Women's National League as a pathway? You see so many of that current Red Roses squad have come through the Bucks pathway. So just how important is that? And do you feel that when you're playing in it?
Yeah, it's massively important because obviously you won't get the opportunity to play week in, week out at the PWR. But being able to train in that environment with the likes of Skaz and Hal and Nelly, and then take what you've learned from that into playing in the Women's National League is really important. Like, it gives us that playing exposure as well as the training exposure that you get from training with Lightning.
And obviously you mentioned you're kind of quite fresh into your rugby career. Is there anyone you kind of look up to and kind of positionally, or is say, oh, this is someone I want to mould my game on?
I think obviously training alongside the likes of Helena Rowland and Skaz, like Skaz coaches us at Bucks, so it's like good to build those relationships with those people and learn from them when they're playing for England pretty much every game. So like just take what you can from them and try mold it to what you can do in your game, that kind of thing.
I'm kind of looking ahead to the rest of the season. Obviously, there's 2 more 20s games coming kind of later in the spring, and obviously Bucks semi-final next week, but Prem Cup coming up as well. Just kind of a lot on your plate coming up. So just what you kind of aims for the rest of the season?
Just want to play as much as I can and hopefully get into the Bucks final, which unfortunately clashes with when we'll be in France playing for 20s. But either way, it's a great opportunity to do France away or play in the Bucks final. So, and then moving on to Prem Cup, just get as much time as I can there to help progress my game, and then hopefully push on to some Prem time maybe.
Yeah, just one last thing before I let you go. Just how important is that kind of Prem Cup as a part of like players like yourself who kind of have it as a pathway into playing Prem rugby? You see a lot of players have made that step up. So just how important do you find that Prem Cup time?
Yeah, it's hugely important. Like at the start of the season, we had a lot of Prem Cup games, and then managed to get my Prem debut in the first game of the season against Saris. It just shows like how important having a good cup period is for progressing on into the Prem, and then hopefully we can do the same after this cup period and just keep pushing on and getting that exposure at different levels. It's just really important.
Perfect. So, Leah, thank you so much for chatting to us today. Best of luck for your book semi-final next week, and best of luck for the rest of the season as well.
Thank you.
So Steph, just first of all, thanks so much for chatting to us today. Just how are you and how's your week been so far?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been really good actually. Yeah, it's just got out of camp, so it's nice to just have a little bit of a breather. Training back with Bucks now, so yeah, it's been a good week.
You mentioned camps. Obviously, there were plenty in the build, kind of that first 20s game on Saturday. Just how important is that kind of time together for kind of a fresh group of athletes to be together, to train together in order to play together?
Yeah, it's like essential. We've got a lot of youngsters coming up. I think there was like 8 of us that were pre-capped last year by 20s. So obviously a young squad, like we needed to all get to know each other. Yeah, but it gave us a lot of time to bond together, work out how each other plays. Yeah, so that we can get on the pitch and play really well together.
Obviously, you've got kind of a new coaching setup. Just how nice has that been to kind of learn a new kind of potential brand of rugby from what you were used to when you were last in 20s?
Yeah, so last year we had LJ for a little bit, and then obviously she left on maternity leave. So the older ones have had her before, so it's quite nice to have a familiar face when you're going into camp. But yeah, obviously new coaching setup. But yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
And just kind of, can you just talk us through briefly kind of what your rugby journey's been like to kind of reach this stage? Obviously, you played 20s last year, but kind of how has it got to this stage for yourself?
So I started when I was 4, at Scarborough. Yeah, and honestly, I just went from there. My whole family plays, so it's like a family thing. Like it would have always been part of my life. Did county, then got into 18s. When I went to Bishop Burton College, and then I moved down here for uni. Got into 20s. Then yeah, here I am.
And just to
With
kind of
Gloucester
look at,
Hartford alongside
yeah,
that.
and just to kind of look at Saturday's game as a whole. Obviously, it's not the score the Army would have wanted, but just how physical they seemed against your side. Just how tough was that kind of against a team that plays so much adult rugby compared to quite a young side yourselves?
Yeah, honestly, the scoreline did not reflect on the Army at all. They were really physical. Their line speed was great. They were really putting pressure on us, forcing the errors really. But yeah, it was definitely a great game to everyone to get involved in, to bring the youngsters up. They all took that step up, and everyone really played really well.
And just how important is this game? Obviously, you've got France and Wales coming up. How important is it to kind of have these games ahead of those two fixtures? Kind of a bit of a different warm up instead of playing Bucks or kind of Prem Cup rugby.
Yeah, definitely. It gives you a bit of confidence going into the bigger games like France and Wales. Obviously, we played them last year. Not the result we wanted, but obviously it's given us confidence going into that game to see that we have got a really good team, and yeah, it just gives the confidence around us. Yeah.
I think if you look at the kind of the squad you've got this year, there are a lot more players who played a significant more amount of PWR rugby, like yourself, kind of played near enough every week compared to last year's squad. Just how important has that been for you, and how have you found that kind of playing pretty regularly in the Prem?
Yeah, really important. Obviously you have the people around you, like the internationals. So I've got the Zoe, the Sarah Beckett, the Alex Matthews, and they just push, even in training, the standards to be so much better, to that when you go into the 20 setup, that you can push the standards yourself then, so that everyone around you is pushing like the boundaries to be as best that you can be.
You kind of feel like one of the more experienced players in that 20 setup at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously being there last year, I kind of knew how things were going to run, how everything was going to be around it. But I think clean slate, we start again, new team. Yeah, I think we just start again really.
And obviously, you've had a bit of a whirlwind kind of 2024 with that main Red Roses training squad appearance for a little bit. Just how was that? How was that experience? Kind of how did you find out that was happening?
Yeah, it was really surreal. It was a bit like a pinch me moment, but yeah, it was really good. I just got a phone call on the Sunday morning from Mitch just saying, "Would you like to come into camp?" And I was like, Yeah, I would, yeah. But yeah, it was really surreal just walking into camp, seeing all the people that you watch on telly, and you're just like, wow, I'm actually here. But yeah, it was just a great experience, and it just got me to think about just the next steps that to push myself for, so that I'm ready when he next calls.
And obviously, there was quite a few of that 20 side who have trained with the senior squad recently. I think yourself, Lily Ives, Campion, Ella, Millie as well. Just how important is that to kind of have a bit of the understanding of how the whole setup works and kind of having that experience from the top coming into the 20 side?
Yeah, definitely. It just means that you can bring the experience from the senior camp back into 20s, and then again keep pushing the standards so that everyone around you, if anyone else gets that call, that they will all be ready to go into that senior camp.
And obviously, you've mentioned books before about Harp and Hartbury. Obviously, your semi-final of the Women's National League's next Wednesday. Is that right?
Yeah.
Just how kind of excited are you for that kind of to be playing in the final stages of such a big competition?
Yeah, really excited. Honestly, I love books. It's really like the pathway bit, but like it's so fun, and you get to play with your friends, and it's just smile on your face, getting the ball passing around. Like it's just honestly, it's so fun. Yeah, and I can't wait to go into the semi-final next week, and hopefully we get a good result out of that and can go into the final. But yeah, fingers crossed.
You mentioned the kind of pathway. Just how important do you think it is for sides like Gloucester, Hartbury to have that pathway coming through? If you look at the team that's been out with during injuries at the moment, when you've got yourself, kind of Millie in the back line, Pip Hendy as well, now just how vital is it to kind of have these growing pathways of actually quality rugby to make that step up so easily?
Yeah, it's essential. I think obviously there's been unfortunately quite a lot of injuries this season for GH, but it's given the chance for Pip, for Nell, for Mill to put their hands up and to really say like, I want this shirt. And then I think all of them have put their hands up and said, and I think internationals coming back in, I think they'll be like, they're nipping at the heels really, aren't they? Yeah, they've been playing some really good rugby, and yeah, I think the pathway's great. There's always someone to be pushing you to be better. So yeah.
And just finally for me, just obviously kind of potentially quite a busy end of the season for yourself with the two 20s games, some Bucks games, Prem Cup, PWR, just kind of what are the hopes for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think just getting some game time under my belt. I think obviously there's so many internationals in the PWR setup. I think I haven't been getting the game time that I would have liked. Obviously, I can't complain, but I think with the cup coming up, I think I'd like to be pushing for that game time. Same with 20s, really. I think last year, well, I didn't get a start last year, and obviously I've got my start now, but I'd like to keep pushing for that shirt. So I need to keep putting the big games in, because everyone put their hands up in the game last weekend. So people nipping at my heels as well. So yeah, it's just keeping that shirt really.
Perfect. So, Steph, thanks so much for chatting to us today, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And the final part of this week's podcast is the news, where we'll be looking at all the news from around the women's rugby game. Starting off worldwide with a couple of a friendly international from last weekend away from the Six Nations. In South Africa edged to victory 15-13 versus Spain in Valladolid. A late Jackie Cilliers penalty won the game for them, a really tight game. Two games on Saturday, both decided by a late kick, with a Wales game as well. So big win for South Africa that now face the USA this weekend at Trailfinders Sports Park in London. So if you're down there, get along. Moving on now, and next Wednesday sees the semi-finals of the Bucks Women's National League, as we just mentioned, with Hartbury hosting Cardiff Met and Exeter taking on Loughborough. Two massive games there to decide who'll be meeting in the final at the StoneX Stadium in the middle of April. Over in New Zealand in Super Rugby Opiki, Chiefs Manor will remain unbeaten, kind of at the top of the table following a win at Hurricanes Pua last week, with Blues women who sit in second, also winning as well. Both sides will meet on Saturday in a massive clash, with Hurricanes Pua based on Matatu in the other game. Over in Australia in Super W, round two saw wins for the Brumbies over the Rebels, the Western Force over the Reds, and a big win for the Waratahs over Fijian Drua. This week, the Waratahs host the Rebels, the Drua host the Force, and the Reds face the Brumbies. And finally, the Under-18 Six Nations Festival gets underway on Friday in Colwyn Bay. Each side playing 2 35-minute games on the first 2 days. And on Friday, England face Ireland, then Italy, before Ireland play the Italians, obviously 2-3s. And then host Wales face France and Scotland, with Scotland and France also facing off. We're really excited to be at Colwyn Bay on Friday for this. It's so many of the players from last year have made that massive step up now. If you look at Wales, Nell Metcalfe and Sean Jones have both been capped already. There's players in Scotland who are in the Celtic Challenge squad and pushing to the Scottish Six Nations squad. There's more in the Welsh side who are in and around the Six Nations squad. If you look at England as well, players like El Cromac, Billy Hyatt, Amelia McDougall all made that step up to 20s level, playing Prem level as well. And it's really exciting to see the players make this step up and kind of this being the first step on the journey. So who knows how many future Red Roses, how many future Welsh players, how many future French, Italians, Irish and Scottish players will we see playing on Friday in Colwyn Bay. But that's been episode 17 of the Women's Rugby Show Weekly. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like the video, comment on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It does us a world of good. And also check us out across all social medias. And also don't forget to check out Moonrise Sports as well.